About go time, so I will stand up here so that, although I don't know that the folks can really see it. So it's so good to have Maddie back. Hey. And I think you're probably just barely off the plane, right?
I got back Saturday at like 9 p.m. Yeah. And then I slept for maybe Tuesday.
So thanks to everybody for joining us, both physically here as well as online. And this is Maddie's year presentation, which we are excited to hear about how things went. Most of you know she's just back from Archer, so I am especially excited to hear about that. I think she'll incorporate that into what she's going to share with us. So Maddie, you'll have about 10 to 15 minutes to present, and then I will have some comments for you, then we'll open it up to everybody else in the room. And this is, of course, your opportunity to share with us what you've accomplished this year, as well as what you're looking forward to next year. So with that, Maddie, it's all you.
Well, thank you guys all for coming to my presentation. I'm going to talk about what happened this past year, and I decided to break it up kind of by semester, just because the semesters were really different, and fall semester feels a little bit like it was forever ago. But one of my biggest obligations, or that took up a lot of my time this past semester, was I was interning with the San Antonio Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. This was an internship I started in last June, and then I ended up extending and ran through December. And they were just really amazing there in terms of letting me take on like really substantive projects. And I kind of tried to highlight some of the different learning outcomes that I felt like I achieved. One of the big projects I worked on was they were engaging in this advocacy campaign to get some of the ARPA economic ecosystem funds given out as direct grants to small businesses. And between the local or the city government and the county government, that resulted in like $35 million that was given out in grants. And I'm the person who wrote the advocacy letters that were sent out to like the different offices for that. I wrote probably like a dozen for different projects, but that project I wrote probably like 4 different advocacy letters that were sent to like 30 different offices. And obviously there was like a lot more that went into that campaign, including meetings and stuff, but that was the part I was responsible for. And it was just really exciting because now I have like these letters that I can show, and like one of them's even linked in like a San Antonio report article, and like I'm the one who wrote that, and it was just a really cool experience. I also got to help plan a international trade mission where we sent San Antonio businesses to Colombia and Panama, and that was just really cool because I got to sit in on a lot of calls where people were like switching back and forth with English and Spanish and talking about local businesses and kind of helping to match up some of our businesses with businesses in Bogota that could, create fruitful partnerships. And that was just a really cool thing to be a part of and see the planning and the work that goes into that type of thing. While I was there, the San Antonio Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, which for context, we're the largest and oldest Hispanic Chamber of Commerce in the entire country, actually. But they created a Texas Hispanic Chamber of Commerce coalition with a bunch of different chambers of commerce, or Hispanic chambers of commerce across the state. And I was the person who was responsible for reaching out to those and doing the initial research to see which chambers we wanted to reach out to, and kind of securing some of those meetings. And so that was kind of just like a project management ran from the summer when I was there, kind of right to after I left, and they had the first press conference announcing the coalition. And so it was just a really cool thing to be a part of and to see kind of what goes into creating those partnerships with nonprofits. I also engaged in 3 different service projects last semester. The first was Be the Match, which that's been kind of ongoing since I was a freshman. Be the Match, if you're not familiar with it, it's a national bone marrow registry that connects potential donors with cancer patients or people who have blood illnesses that need a donation. And this past semester, we like finally got the student group up off the ground. So they are running, we hosted a drive. We also hosted a joint service project with TSSO where we got people to put together donation kits. And so that was just really cool to kind of see that like come to fruition and become like a real thing, since I've been working on that for kind of a while now. I also went back to Battleground, Texas. This is another group that I worked with my freshman year and then again briefly my sophomore year. And I wasn't really working with them this time, but I was going out and volunteering at a few of their events to register people to vote this past September and October. And that's just always fun to be a part of. And then I took a civic engagement course with Professor Regina Amatangelo. And through that, I was a workshop leader, and we designed a workshop about how to engage in civic engagement in college to present to high school seniors and kind of show them, hey, here's some ways you can get involved, here's some ways you can benefit too from being involved in service. And so that was really cool. It actually went off really well, and I was surprised I was very nervous about it. And I probably drove like all my grade numbers crazy, but we had a great time and it went really well. So for the spring semester, I was an Archer Fellow and I lived in DC, and in some ways that made me really appreciate San Antonio and the support system I have here. It was kind of scary going to like a new place. I've never lived outside of the San Antonio area, but I had a great time and I really valued this semester. I took a few classes. Two of the ones that I wanted to highlight was I took Politics of National Memory, where we kind of got to explore how we view America and how we decide what is like important about our history and how we retell that history. We got to go to a lot of museums. We got to have a sunrise class at the Lincoln Memorial and a sunset class at the National Archives. And that was just a really interesting kind of intellectual exploration of, you know, like what is America? What does it mean to be American? And I really enjoyed that. We also took, it's called the policymaking process. And this was a policy simulation. And so everyone was assigned like a member of the House. We were kind of split into 4 groups. I was assigned Bobby Scott, who's a representative from Virginia. So I got to learn a lot about the 3rd District of Virginia by engaging in this. And our professor was actually, he had worked with the Educational Workforce Committee like on the Hill. And he had written this bill called the Future Act, and we were pretending to like amend that act. So we wrote 3 different memos about just the background of the act, to prepare someone for like a hearing. And then also we got to draft amendments to it. So I drafted like 3 real like bill amendments that could actually be passed if they were presented. And so that was a really cool experience that I haven't had in any other classes or internships. And I just learned a lot from doing it. Here's some pictures. That's us at the JFK, or not JFK, FDR Memorial, taking like a sunset class there, but I have a lot of classes outside. It was really cool to kind of make the city the classroom. This is me and Alicia. We're standing in front of the Washington Memorial in the back, but we're at the Lincoln Memorial at that first sunset class, kind of kicking off the semester. And then there's me sitting in the actual education and workforce committee hearing room. We got to like speak into the microphones, and it was really cool. And it was really cool because I actually found that I was very good at that kind of thing. And I wasn't expecting myself to be. I've always been like, oh, I could never be a politician. Like, I'm too nervous. I freak out. Like, I could not do it. But I actually found that when I was in that setting, even though I mean, I was among friends, so it was different, but I was like, oh, like, I could do this. Like, I know what I'm supposed to say, and I'm prepared, and I'm able to engage in this way. And so that was just a really cool kind of confidence boost, and a way to explore the policymaking process from that side, as well as from the side of a legislative staffer. For my internship, I worked with the House Democratic Caucus as a press intern. It was 40 hours a week, which I had not done an internship that was out of season before. And so it was really cool to kind of get to be in that environment on Capitol Hill every day. I get an understanding of DC's professional culture and how you kind of get jobs in that city. And I also got to get coffee with DC Hill professionals, including I met a legislative assistant in Ilhan Omar's office and got coffee with her. She was really interesting. And I also got coffee with the the director of Hispanic media for Senator Chuck Schumer. And she was someone who I had met at like this panel in which she was presenting. And one of my responsibilities was I was cutting press clips, and I was also cutting press clips in Spanish. And this was the first time I really explored Spanish media and Spanish language media. And I was really surprised by how different that media sometimes looks from English media, and what kind of makes it through to people who consume that media and what doesn't. And that was just really interesting to me because even though like my grandparents are bilingual, they watch a lot of like Spanish language TV and a lot of Spanish language news media. And so I was kind of talking to her about that, and we ended up getting coffee, and now I'm friends with her on LinkedIn. So that was just a really cool connection to get to make. It also helped to kind of demystify the whole process of working in DC. And even though like it's still intimidating, I kind of realized like these are all just people, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but I could also go and do that and work on the Hill, and it's not so scary, it doesn't feel so out of reach anymore. I was also named this Congressional Fellow, which is a program that interns who are working on the Hill can participate in, where you get basically to go on Fridays to these little info sessions and write like a policy memo. And it was just a really cool way to kind of make some more connections on the Hill. We also had a lot of fun. We went to New York. That's me, Alicia, and a couple of other Archie fellows saying the scariest Airbnb ever in New York. And we went and visited some different places. This was the line for La Tejana, which is the only Texas style taqueria in all of DC. If anyone has a business opportunity, I think you can make some money there. But yeah, I had a lot of fun and I made a lot of really cool connections that way. For summer plans, I'm going to Buenos Aires, Argentina, and I'm so excited. It's in South America, obviously, and I'm going to be spending 12 weeks taking 20 hours a week of intensive Spanish courses, and so I'm really excited to get to kind of just increase my competency in the language there, and just get to really explore like a new culture in a new city. It's also the second largest city in South America, and I was surprised when I was researching it to see how like culturally diverse it is. One of the things I'm excited about is they have like their own version of a Chinatown in Buenos Aires, and I went to like Chinatowns in Philadelphia and New York while I was in DC, and loved DC's Chinatown, and kind of seeing how like a South American country would do Chinatown is something that I'm kind of excited to see how it might be similar, how it might be different. But that's what I'm planning for the summer. And then next semester I'll be back at UTSA, kind of finishing out my college experience and figuring out what I'm going to do afterwards. But yeah, thank you all for being here and listening to me.
Well, great job. What a remarkable year, right? Um, and I hope that, as you think about next year, you will be able to just kind of enjoy and take in. And I hope you have taken some time to take in all that you've been able to do and appreciate your accomplishments. My goodness. Sometimes you're really fast when you mention them. You pass over them a little quickly, in my opinion. Some of what you've been able to do is really quite noteworthy, from the internships you've had to just being able to juggle it all for sure. So I'm glad you've had this remarkable experience. So come back next year and take all of this that you've done and share it, right? Share it broadly, share it beyond the statement of, well, if someone has questions, right? That's one of those things that everybody says, right? Well, I'm available if somebody has questions, but I hope you've done some special stuff. So I hope you'll share beyond just available for questions. Anybody else? Who else? Questions, comments?
Yeah, I want to start by saying, like, I've learned so much from you. I would never have begun to look into civic engagement as a minor if we didn't have these conversations. I want to say thank you for just being open to having those conversations. And something that you picked out like a couple of times in the presentation was like the youth summit, the workshop that you put together with your team. I know you just said that like you were nervous, you think they all hated you. Not at all. Your workshop was the best that we had. I was also in that class and I got to put together our team's workshop, and it was nowhere near. It was not at the same level as yours was. And then when you said that you felt like you could really see yourself, like being on the professional panel, like talking to that microphone, makes me happy to hear that you kind of have that growth and like seeing your own confidence in what you are capable of doing. And like, I don't know. I know sometimes the conversation we have, you tell me that you feel like you're nervous, but from like my perspective, you're calm, cool, collected, just on the money every time. So I'm really happy to hear you say that, and I'm really happy you're back.
Thank you.
I am curious, what are your plans? I know it's still a year out. What's your plans after graduation?
I'm kind of still in the process of figuring out. I've recently been considering applying for a Fulbright to kind of go abroad and teach English for a year. I think kind of being in DC, there were really great parts of the experience, but there were also parts of the experience that made me like, I feel like I'm moving too fast. And I really wanted to kind of learn young to like explore the world and like have fun and appreciate things. And so I really am kind of looking at opportunities to go abroad after I graduate, and that's where my head's at right now. I'm also kind of looking at opportunities for work. I personally being in DC also made me realize like I really want to work in San Antonio. I really want to work in local politics. Like that's just kind of where my heart is and what's interesting to me. And so I would love to look at like kind of career opportunities here in San Antonio. I might have to start in DC and come back. I feel like a lot of the people I've met in San Antonio that are working in politics here, like started someone else who's not a ton of entry level positions available. I'm kind of figuring it out still, but that's where my head's at.
Good. That's where also your work with Professor Amitangelo and Dr. Harvio, particularly Professor Amitangelo, will come into play because if there's anyone who knows the local policy world and politics, job market, that would be her.
Mhm.
Right. And, look around too, it's always interesting to me how young many of the folks in chief policy advisor, even chief of staff roles. There are a lot of very young people in those roles. And it's because they've done what you've hustled, right? You have hustled. And so don't think that doesn't count. It counts.
Thank you.
Melissa says, love that you tried something you didn't think you'd like to do and found out you like it. This is exactly what we hope for in experiences and enrichment. And she is absolutely correct.
Thank you.
All right.
How to escape.
Well, everyone have a wonderful
Okay.
afternoon. Our next
you.
presentation is at 1:30 and it will be,